The crisis between herdsmen and farmers is taking a toll on the country, and the government is exploring every opportunity to strategize and ensure that farmers and herders cohabit in the interest of national unity. One of the suggestions being canvassed is the cattle colony, which is generating controversy across the states. What is cattle colony? How will it work? My guest on this week's episode of the program explains how government is approaching the issue of cattle colony. Hello there, welcome to Dateline Abuja. I'm Gloria Umezuki. Well, 16 states are giving up some part of their lands for the federal government to start the proposed cattle colony, which will accommodate ranches for herdsmen to feed their cows instead of moving around as it's the case presently. The Minister of Agriculture explains what the government is doing in that regard. But first, what are the stories that made headlines within the week in the nation's capital?
Vice President Professor Yemi Osinbajo has admitted that corruption under the present administration has not been completely dealt with. Professor Osinbajo was speaking on issues of corruption and past failures of government at the 7th Presidential Quarterly Business Forum in Abuja.
Oil prices were at an average of $110 a barrel, and only 99 billion naira was spent on power works and housing. Only 99 billion. And in one day, 100 billion naira was issued. And people essentially shared it. And 99 billion was spent on power works and housing. And when we talk about our economy, we talk about it as if it is the normal. It's not that's abnormal. I'm not saying that corruption under this administration has been completely dealt with. No, I mean, certainly not. Where corruption has become systematic, such as we have in our country today, you can't deal with it in one fell swoop. It's not possible. If we stick to policy, especially on controlling excesses and corruption in public finance, this country will make the kind of progress that it deserves to make with all of the resources at our disposal.
The federal government has filed fresh charges against 4 members of Indigenous People of Biafra being tried alongside the group's leader, Mr. Nnamdi Kanu. The 3-count charge, which borders on treasonable felony, was filed at the Federal High Court in Abuja. The IPOB members include Benjamin Madubugu, Chidiebere Onwudiwe, Bright Chimezie and David Nwanwusi. The prosecution counsel, Mr. Shuaibu Labaran, had called the attention of the court to the continued absence of Mr. Kanu at the trial. He therefore requested the court to hear the separate charges against the 4 other accused, which the trial judge, Justice Binta Nyako, granted. All the 4 accused pleaded not guilty to the alleged offence after the charge was read. The federal government has confirmed the release of 106 abducted persons, comprising 104 Dapchi schoolgirls, 1 other girl and a boy in the early hours of Wednesday. Briefing State House correspondents before heading to Maiduguri, the capital of Borno State, the Minister of Information and Culture, Alhaji Lai Muhamed, said the president dispatched a delegation to assess the situation. He added that the abducted persons were released unconditionally.
The report we got was that one condition that the insurgents gave was that they will be the one to drop the girls. And they dropped them in the early hours of this morning. That's all we know.
How did that become so easy?
It was agreed that there will be no force, there will be no confrontation. So that's why it was possible for them to drop the girls. It's part of the agreement that we release the girls, will not use any violence, will not use competition. And don't forget that the lives of these children are much more important to us than any cheap military victory.
President Muhammad Buhari has indicated his administration's readiness to grant amnesty and rehabilitate Boko Haram elements who are ready to lay down their arms. The president offered this guarantee when he received 104 Dapchi schoolgirls and 2 others recently released from the clutches of insurgents.
Let me emphasize our administration's commitment to the fight against terrorism and insurgency, and also call on all Nigerians to join in this task. The security services have since been directed to put in place further measures around all schools vulnerable to attacks to ensure the safety of our pupils, students, and teachers and school workers. To the rescued students, we want to assure you, as our daughters, that you will freely live and pursue your dreams in Nigeria of peace and order without fear of violence or molestation. I want to appeal to the Chibok community never to lose hope or to despair. We are determined as never before to bring back our remaining Chibok daughters, and this we must accomplish, and that will be soon by God's grace. May I also warn against those elements who have chosen to make political fortune of our citizens' misfortune. Government will not tolerate any attempt by any person or group to trivialize or politicize security issues for politically motivated ends. Accordingly, security agencies will not hesitate to decisively deal with such unscrupulous characters.
The Senate and the House of Representatives have taken a decision to pass the 2018 budget on April 24. Ahead of the date, the Joint Committees on Appropriations will lay the report on the budget in the 2 chambers on April 19. The Speaker of the House of Representatives, Honorable Yakubu Dogara, disclosed this during Wednesday's plenary.
We have proposing that we're laying the budget finally on the 19th of April 2018, and hopefully we'll be passing the budget on the 24th of April 2018. Is the harmonized calendar with the Senate, and the announcer is the Deputy Speaker.
The Senate has confirmed the nomination of Aisha Ahmed and Edward Adamu for appointment as Deputy Governors of the Central Bank of Nigeria. The Senate also confirmed the nomination of Professor Adiola Adenikinju, Dr. Aliyu Sanusi and Dr. Robert Asogwa for appointment as members of the Monetary Policy Committee. However, the lawmakers rejected the nomination of Dr. Ashek Meidugu.
It's a political question of the quality.
The co-chair of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Mr. Bill Gates, and the president of the Dangote Group of Companies, Alhaji Aliko Dangote, attended a special session of the National Economic Council meeting held at the Presidential Villa, Abuja. The meeting focused on investing in Nigeria's human capital development, including health and education sector. Addressing State House correspondents after a closed-door session of the meeting, Alhaji Dangote suggested that private companies should donate 1% of their annual profits to fund the health sector in Nigeria.
We are suggesting is also to make sure that we fund our health sector very well, is to see that maybe the private sector should try and be given 1% of their annual profits, so that will actually help in generating quite a lot of money. Because since the rebasing of the economy, we are going to get out of most of these donations that we are getting from Gavi, World Bank, and the rest of the donors. Making Nigeria a rich country, not a poor country anymore. So I think we have to also do our own bit to make sure that, yes, we have a very vibrant population.
The federal government wants states and the private sector to lend support and take advantage of the National Homegrown School Feeding Program. Speaking on behalf of the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, at a symposium on homegrown school feeding to mark the African Day of School Feeding at the State House, The Secretary to the Government of the Federation observed that the program, which was part of the government's campaign promise, is successfully feeding over 7.4 million pupils in 22 states across the Federation.
We must strengthen the commitment of the arms of government to this program. The executive arm of government remains committed to always improving the quality and quantity of homegrown school feeding. The legislative arm must keep supporting the effort in terms of appropriation and other forms of support.